It's all about photography. Focus, zoom, click. This is the Photog Session with Matt and Ben.
Smile for the camera.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Photog Session, the show that brings you the latest in everything photography. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Jordan, and with me today, my co-host, Ben Robinson.
Hey guys, what's up?
Ben, what do we have for our listeners this week?
In today's episode, we'll be giving you the latest in photography to help you improve your photography skills.
And with that being said, let's get into it. In today's segment of Photog News,
we're going to be talking about the Canon R5. The Canon R5 is supposed to be released around July 2nd of 2020 of this year. This camera can shoot up to 8K video, which I have never seen a camera can do. Right now, every camera on the market can only do 4K video, but this camera is going to do 8K video. And this is a pro level camera. And this has really turned some heads for a lot of people who has been doing videography for some years now. And so far, the only camera that you can buy on the market is probably the Sony a7 III that can shoot 4K at 24 or 30 frames per second. But now, since Canon got this new camera out that can do video at 8K at 30 frames per second, that's going to really break some new ground for video. But right now,
it really is.
Yeah. But the only problem I found with this was that it's going to be hard to find a computer to process that. But But once computers can catch up to it and memory cards can actually download the footage to the card fast enough, then I think that this camera can have some very good potential. Also, this camera can shoot 12 frames per second on its mechanical shutter, and it has 20 frames per second on its silent shutter, which is pretty fast for stills also. So you can probably do some sport shooting with this.
I mean, you could also even do, some crazy slow-mo wedding videos with that. I mean, with 4K, 120p, that's crazy. I mean, think about that. That translates into like 5 times slow motion on a 24p timeline without dropping down to HD resolution.
Yeah.
Which, that's gonna change the game right there. You can get some smooth slow motion videos in 4K, and that's gonna look beautiful. And if I had the money right now, I'd buy this camera in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would too, man. This camera is supposed to have dual card slots for that 8K video. It's supposed to have CF Express cards, so that's even faster than the fastest SD card right now, the SDXC cards. So the CF Express is going to be faster than that. So you're going to have, a good card to actually put this 8K video on. Also,
this camera is just built.
Yeah, these 2 card slots. So what happens with dual card slots? If one fills up, the camera should automatically go to the next one and start putting the footage in the next card. That's what a lot of camera companies are trying to do these days. They're trying to add dual card slots to help with the footage going from the camera, from the main sensor going into the card. So that's what kind of helps do. Also, this camera also has dual pixel autofocus. That is Canon's trademark. That is their patent pending, the dual pixel. So you're going to get really good autofocus with this camera. Also, it has in-body stabilization. So I don't know the stop of how far down you can go, but I'm pretty sure you can go at some slow stops at like 1/8 of a second. Because I've done it with my Sony a7 III, and it can go down to 1/8 of a second. So I'm pretty sure this camera can do that too. So pretty much what in-body stabilization is that you can hold this in your hand at very slow shutter speeds without a tripod. But if you're going to do some serious movements in video or anything, you probably need a gimbal for that. But in-body stabilization is going to be your lifesaver when it comes to a lot of handheld shooting. So that's the good part of that.
Now the bad part is probably the price range that this thing's going to be in.
Yeah, I think the price of this camera is, that's going to be kind of the hard thing for people. So it's probably going to be around $3,000. The 5D Mark IV was around $3,000 also. So it's a pro level camera. It has all the specs that everyone wants. So this camera is going to have it's going to have a very high MSRP on this.
Yeah, it's a mega camera. I mean, it's literally the camera that we've all been waiting for.
Yeah. The one thing I have to say about that is it's kind of a bad time to release this camera because of the price point. And a lot of people right now, because of COVID-19, a lot of people are unemployed right now. And I think this is probably going to be kind of a problem with Canon trying to sell this camera when half the world is unemployed and, the world's not at its best financial, health-wise as.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I have to say is that this camera's good. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but it's just that I kind of wish Canon probably release it next year or so, but they probably need to help their own business and go ahead and release this camera.
They're gonna have probably a rough start with getting people to buy it and stuff, but I think once the economy gets back up and stuff and people get back to their jobs, I think people will be going for this like crazy. I mean, especially wedding photographers with that dual card slot. I mean, that's something that a lot of photographers are gonna like want because they're eating up cards like crazy. And with that dual card slot, it's gonna be a time saver for them. Even people with doing sports. I mean, if they're doing multiple games and stuff, that dual card slot's gonna be very useful.
Yeah, I think this camera, it has a lot of the potential. I was actually referring it when we were talking earlier last week. I think this is like the Thanos of cameras because it's like a Titan. It's going to really rock the entire camera industry overall, and it's probably going to make a lot of camera companies really think about their new cameras, and probably Sony and Nikon's got to answer for this camera and kind of make a camera that can do the same specs. But we have to see. Probably even Fujifilm. Right. Fujifilm probably got something up their sleeve too that we don't know yet.
And all in due time.
Yeah. So hopefully that this camera will give us something for this. One thing also about this camera is the lenses. The lenses are very, very good. Canon's on RF lenses are very sharp. They're like knife sharp. They're really good. I have heard multiple sources where their lenses are very high quality. The problem is that they're expensive because, that's what you get. If you have something high quality, they're going to be expensive anyway. That's obvious. So the only thing is that a lot of people want to have alternative sources. They want an alternative lens or a third-party lens so they can buy it at their own price or their own budget. So Sigma is supposed to release these lenses next year or so, I think.
Yeah, for the Canon mirrorless. Yeah. And I'm not sure when that is, but they're in the talks of making a couple lenses that go with the Canon mirrorless, and the news came from the Sigma CEO, and I can never say that name. You're gonna have to say that name for me, Ben.
Oh yeah, his name is Kazuto Yama. I can't even say it now. We just call it
Yakami.
Mr. Yamaki. I think I just butchered
Mr.
it.
Yamaki.
I think we just butchered it, but
it's all good. But in which he stated that the company will focus their attention on developing DGDN and DCDN mirrorless lenses, full frame and APS-C, in other terms, with the most emphasis being put on full frame mirrorless lenses. And like we said, they're rumored to release sometime in 2021. We're not really sure yet when they're going to, but they're going to be definitely focusing on that full frame mirrorless and hopefully some even APS lenses. I wouldn't mind seeing some APS lenses.
Yeah, I would like to see a lot of lenses come out of Sigma and even Tamron. I think Tamron, those two right there, I kind of wish they had more lenses for the Canon and Nikons. I think that with those lenses, because I have a Tamron right now from my Sony a7 III, and I really like it for how much it costs. It costs about around $800, $900. And it's actually a very sharp lens, and it's very lightweight to carry in my camera bag. So I really like my Tamron. It was my first Tamron lens I ever had, and I actually really enjoy it. I have never had a Sigma lens, but I always hear they're really good lenses. If you're if you're on a budget and you need something less expensive than Canon's lenses or Nikon's or any other name brand lenses, you always have these third-party lenses that can make it affordable for you to buy so you can shoot pictures. So that's the one thing good about having third-party companies, these third-party lens companies making these lenses for you, is that you can actually buy your lens at an affordable price.
Yeah. In other news, though, Sony's new AI sensor, the world's first image sensor with integrated AI smart system.
Yeah, this sensor is going to have artificial intelligence in it. And if you guys remember, like, what is that show called? Person of Interest, and how in Person of Interest, the guy had a computer that was able to track people's faces and stuff. Within kind of like that thing, this is really science fiction, and I think Sony's trying to make science fiction into science reality, and it's going to be really, really groundbreaking because this lens is going to track. What they're going to try to do is take this chip, is a sensor, and it has a pixel chip and a logic chip, and these things are going to. So what they're going to do is they're trying to make it kind of a hybrid sensor with a processor on it, and this thing is going to pretty much try to identify people. It's going to attract people coming in and out of stores and stuff, so they can keep shoplifting down. So it's more of a kind of a security device more than anything, and probably down the road that this lens can really help out a lot of companies and trying to save money for their yearly income and stuff.
But I think it's something interesting. I mean, I've never really thought that we would need something like that for cameras, but I mean, I think could take it to the next level. I mean, think of the algorithms that we could even do with this. And for our next segment, we got the best camera bargains of 2020, and these are some pretty good bargains.
Yes, the Olympus Tough TG6 is the first one on our bargain list here, and it has a 12 megapixel sensor, and also it can go underwater. It's a waterproof camera. It's very rugged and compact. This thing it looks like it can take a beating.
Yeah, it's not a bad compact camera. I mean, the photo quality is good for a camera with a small sensor, and the TG6 is the only camera in its class that actually supports RAW. So, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
it even shoots. I think what you're about to say was it also shoots really good 4K video, which is that's not really common for a compact camera, is it?
No, that's actually something. I mean, smartphones can do 4K video, but yeah, having a camera of this size, and you can actually go underwater because your phone can't go underneath water to do 4K video, but this camera can. So if you like to go underwater, and like if you're scuba diving or anything, you just want to take pictures of the fish and some of the coral reefs and stuff, I think this camera would be really good for that. This is probably going to compete with the GoPro also, because this camera cannot, GoPros can go underwater too. So maybe there's kind of a competition there with the GoPro in this camera. But anyway, this camera costs about $349. That's not bad for a camera of that size, and especially the fact that it can go underwater. But I mean, hey, if you are a avid scuba diver or you just like diving in general, I think this is a good camera for that.
Yeah, I mean, like especially for, I mean, the price. I mean, it shoots RAW and 4K, and I mean I mean, it can go about 15 meters or 50 feet. I mean, that's pretty deep.
Yeah, I think that's as far as a person would go underwater to do any scuba diving or just snorkeling or anything like that. I think that'd be good enough for that. Also, I mean, if you're not even in the water, you can take these pictures outside of the water. It looks like it can take a beating. That's what I said before. It looks like it can do really good videos and still. So it'd be a really good camera for the price of that it is.
But also we have on our list the Panasonic Lumix DMC ZS100, which is another compact camera. And this one is pretty much small. I mean, it fits easily in your pocket, making it an ideal camera for travel. I mean, its lens has a relatively slow maximum aperture, so it won't perform terribly well in low light, though it will still outdo compacts with some small sensors. It doesn't get the nicer JPEG color of the newer Panasonic models, but I mean, it's not bad for the price. I mean, it's right about where the Olympic was, about $397.
Yeah. So I think this camera is also good to use. The 4K video is probably not going to be as good as the Olympus. I could be wrong. But you have to see it for yourself. Go look at some reviews online. Just check out this camera if you're actually interested. It's only $397. Looks like it's a good travel camera, so go ahead and give it a look up there.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, for that bargain, it's really not that bad. I mean,
no,
it's pretty good. I mean, you can't complain. I mean, it does 4K.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Olympic's probably a little bit better, but still, it's not too bad. I think for a family that just needs a camera for travel or something, that would be a perfect low camera.
Yeah. Another camera that's coming at the same price at $397 is the Nikon D3500 with the 55 millimeter lens. That is the kit lens that comes with it. Now for me, I have the Nikon D3300 and it was a really good camera for just entry level. And if you're trying to get into photography, if you want to get away from this point and shoot cameras and those recyclable cameras and stuff, you can move up to a DSLR. The Nikon D3500 is a great camera to start off with. The other alternative to this camera is probably the Canon T5i,
yeah, the Rebel series.
Yeah, and this camera here, the D3500, has a 24 megapixel sensor, and it is a APS-C. This thing is pretty small and compact, and it is great for doing family photos and just doing some travel photography, and probably just a little bit of sports. It's not very fast with its shutter speed, but I'm pretty sure you can take some sports with it. But it can do full HD video, and I don't think it does have 4K, but full HD video can get you a lot of ways if you're just trying to do some very small videos and stuff.
I have the Nikon D5200 as one of my personal cameras, and I mean, it's a little upgrade from it, but it's still, I mean, it's all right there. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it has all these different modes, especially for beginners when they're first starting off. So if they're not too familiar with manual mode and stuff yet, I mean, there's literally a sports mode, there's a portrait mode, there's a nature mode. And what's good about this one for sure, it even has, I mean, a thing that's appealing for beginners, which is called guide mode. And it's selecting the color settings for you and what's based on what you're picturing, and like, it really helps them to, I guess, learn what's changing actually on the camera so they can actually be a better photographer and learn these things. And I mean, it even comes with Bluetooth for easy photo sharing. So what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
But the only thing that we could say about this is the battery life is exceptional. It is an earlier model of Nikon, and it's not a bad one. It's, like I said, it's a beginner one, but you can't beat that price. That comes with I mean, the camera and the 18 to 55 lens kit, which is a really good one. I've used the 18 to 55 many times, and I actually pretty much like it. I mean, I use it for some videography and weddings and for some portraits, and I think it does pretty well.
Yeah, it's a great way to start off. So just give that camera a look up there on Amazon. They're really good cameras to start off with. So now moving on to the fourth one we have here is the Panasonic Lumix DMC GX85. That's quite a name. It has the 12 to 32 millimeter and a 45 to 150 millimeter lens. Those are lenses you can get with it. So this thing has a 16 megapixel sensor, in-body stabilization, and a built-in EVF. What an EVF is, that is the electronic viewfinder. So you have to make sure that your camera's on to actually look through the viewfinder. DSLRs are different. You can actually look through the viewfinder without the camera being on. Some people prefer DSLR over a mirrorless camera. That's what this one is here. So it just, whatever you want to go with, a DSLR or mirrorless. EVFs have come a long way. At one time, they used to be pretty bad. The resolution was not good, and they were very pixely, so you can actually see very good through the viewfinder. But they have come a long way. It is smaller than the APS-C, and it can shoot UHD 4K videos. And this camera does have what they call Panasonic has a depth from defocus autofocus system, which is respectable in terms of speed and subject tracking. A lot of people use phase detect, and some people use contrast detect autofocus, and some has phase detect autofocus. We may talk about that later. It's kind of that's very sciencey to talk about right now, but we can talk about that sometime later. But Panasonic's autofocus system is a little iffy, but they have come a long way. So I mean, it's still a good camera to start off with.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really complain. It's not, like I said, for that price, $497, you're getting two pretty good lenses. I mean, you can't go wrong with those two lenses. I mean, You got one that's pretty wide and for like landscape and stuff. And you got one that's pretty good for like sports and portraits. I mean, you can do a lot with both of those lenses. And I mean, the camera itself, I mean, it's a little smaller size of sensor, but I mean, it has the in-body image stabilization, which would be good for video, and I mean, the quality seems pretty decent. So I mean, I think it's a great one for just for the price and for maybe even for beginners. That pretty much wraps up our show today. We thank you for listening, and we hope you stay tuned for our next episode.
And just remember, this podcast is aired bi-weekly on Sunday nights.
And you can come back often, and feel free to add us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Anchor.fm.
You can also follow us on Instagram at the Photog Session for the latest on the show.
And again, we thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next session.
Thanks for listening to the Photog Session. For more on the show, visit on Instagram at the Photog Session.
Smile for the camera.